Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pause for a moment, take a deep breath in and out. Right now, your heart is beating, your lungs are filling with air, your body is functioning without you even thinking about it. That's a miracle, but how often do we acknowledge it? You see, we've been conditioned to believe that miracles are these grand supernatural events. Water turning into wine, the sick suddenly healed, impossible odds being defied. And while those are extraordinary, the truth is miracles are happening around us every single day. Perspective is not just how we see the world, it is the filter through which we experience life. And that filter, it's entirely within our control. Think about this. Two people can look at the same event, the same challenge, the same moment, and see completely different things. One sees a burden, the other sees an opportunity. One sees failure, the other sees a lesson. One sees an ordinary day, the other sees a miracle. What changed? Not the event itself, only their perspective. Now let me tell you a story. There was a man, let's call him David. Every morning, David followed the same routine. He woke up, sighed heavily, checked his phone, and immediately felt the weight of the world. Deadlines, bills, news filled with negativity. He grabbed his coffee, barely tasting it, and rushed to work. Every day felt like a repeat of the last, monotonous, exhausting, uninspiring. Then one day, something changed. David was on his usual commute, frustrated by traffic, when he noticed a woman in the car next to him. She was smiling, completely at peace, just staring out the window. When the light turned red, David glanced over again and saw something that stopped him cold. She had no arms. Yet there she was in that car, singing along to the music, embracing the moment. No phone, no distractions, just being present. David sat there, gripping the steering wheel with both hands, and for the first time he felt something shift inside him. How often had he complained about insignificant things while taking his own abilities for granted? How many mornings had he wasted treating them as a burden instead of a gift? How many miracles had he overlooked simply because he was too focused on what was wrong? He realized then the problem had never been his life. The problem had always been his perspective. Now, I want you to think about your own life. How many moments have you dismissed because they felt ordinary? How often have you focused on what's missing instead of what's present? How many times have you let something small ruin your entire day, when in reality that day was a miracle in itself? Here's the truth. Your world changes the moment you decide to see it differently. A rainy morning, some complain. Others see it as nature's way of cleansing the world. A difficult boss, some feel trapped. Others see an opportunity to practice patience and leadership. A failed project, some give up. Others see a lesson that prepares them for something greater. Every moment in your life presents you with two choices: see the burden or see the blessing. Some of the greatest minds in history understood this. Thomas Edison, after failing 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb, didn't see failure. He saw 1,000 ways that didn't work. Helen Keller, despite being blind and deaf, didn't see limitations. She saw possibilities. And you have that same power. The ability to shift your perspective is the greatest miracle of all, because when you change how you see the world itself begins to change. Gratitude is not just about saying thank you. It's not a polite habit or something we practice only when things are going well. Gratitude is a mindset, a way of seeing the world, a foundation upon which everything else in our lives is built. But here's the thing. Most of us don't realize how powerful it is. We wake up and immediately think about what we don't have. The job we wish was different, the relationship we wish was better, the money we wish was more, the life we wish was easier. And in doing so, we condition ourselves to focus on lack rather than abundance. But what if, just for a moment, you flipped the script? What if, instead of waking up and thinking about what's missing, you started by recognizing what's already there? Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Sarah. She was always in a rush, always chasing something, a better job, a nicer home, a more comfortable life. She told herself that once she had those things, she would finally be happy. One day, while running errands, Sarah's car broke down in the middle of a busy street. Frustrated, she called for a tow truck and sat there, stewing in anger. But then she noticed something. Across the street, there was an older man in a wheelchair, struggling to get up a small curb. He had no legs, Sarah watched as he used every ounce of his strength to lift himself inch by inch onto that sidewalk, and when he finally made it, he smiled, he smiled. At that moment, Sarah felt something shift inside her. She had spent years complaining about the things she didn't have, but she had legs. She could walk, she could run, she could move freely without even thinking about it. She realized something that day. She had everything she once took for granted. How often do we do the same? How often do we focus so much on what we want that we forget to appreciate what we have? Think about this. If you have food in your fridge, clothes on your back, and a roof over your head, you are already wealthier than millions of people in the world. If you have someone in your life who cares about you, whether it's a friend, a family member, or even a pet, you are already richer than those who feel completely alone. If you woke up this morning with the ability to breathe, to move, to start fresh, you have been given a gift that so many others didn't get today. Gratitude is not about having everything. It's about realizing you already have enough. Some of the happiest people in the world are not the ones with the most money, the biggest houses, or the most luxurious lifestyles. They are the ones who have learned to appreciate the simple things, the warmth of the sun on their face, the sound of laughter, the ability to wake up and try again. And science backs this up. Studies show that practicing gratitude daily reduces stress, improves sleep, and even rewires the brain to focus more on the positive, yet so many of us overlook it. We think happiness is something we have to chase, that once we achieve this goal, make this amount of money, find this person, then we'll be happy. But that's a lie. Happiness is not found in the future, it's found in the present. In the small, ordinary moments we often take for granted. And the key to unlocking it? Gratitude. Right now, without thinking, without effort, without any conscious command, your body is keeping you alive. Your heart is beating, your lungs are expanding, air is flowing in and out, and you didn't have to do a single thing to make it happen. That is a miracle. But when was the last time you even thought about it? See, we chase miracles, we search for them in grand, life-altering events. We wait for the moment something extraordinary happens, believing that only then will we truly experience the power of life. Yet the greatest miracle, the one that keeps us alive, that gives us a chance to do, to love, to create, to be, happens every second, unnoticed. Let me put this into perspective. A man named James was rushing through life, deadlines, responsibilities, stress. It never seemed to stop. He was constantly in a state of, what's next? Chasing success, worrying about problems, drowning in the noise of the world. Then one day he found himself in a hospital, struggling to breathe. He had never thought about his breath before, never noticed it, never appreciated it. It had always just been there. But in that moment, as he gasped for air, as doctors worked to help him, as he lay there unable to do the one thing that had once come effortlessly, he understood. He understood that the very thing he had ignored his entire life was the most precious thing he had. Eventually, James recovered, but he was never the same, because now he lived with awareness. Now every breath he took was a reminder that he was here, that he had another chance, that life was not just about chasing the next thing, but about appreciating what was already his. So let me ask you, when was the last time you truly noticed your breath? Notice the way your body keeps you alive without asking for anything in return. Notice the way your lungs expand, how the air fills you, how each breath is proof that you are still here, still capable, still alive, because someone somewhere is taking their last breath right now. Someone somewhere is hooked up to a machine waiting for a chance to breathe freely again, and yet we wake up every day and complain about the weather, about work, about small inconveniences that, in the grand scheme of things, mean absolutely nothing. But the moment you become aware of your breath, everything changes, because if you have breath, you have life. And if you have life, you have a chance to love, a chance to learn, a chance to start over, a chance to become someone better. Think about that. No matter what yesterday looked like, no matter what mistakes you made, what struggles you faced, what battles you fought, you woke up today with breath in your lung. That means life is still giving you another opportunity. Do not take that for granted. In many meditation practices, they teach one fundamental truth. The breath is the anchor. When your mind races, when stress consumes you, when fear paralyzes you, come back to the breath. Because the breath brings you to the present moment, and the present moment is the only place where life truly exists. The past is gone. The future is uncertain. But right here, right now, with this breath, you are alive. And that is a miracle. At some point in life, every one of us will face obstacles. Some will be small, unexpected detours, minor setbacks, moments of frustration. Others will shake the very foundation of who we are. Loss, failure, heartbreak, uncertainty. And in those moments, we ask ourselves, why is this happening to me? But what if we asked a different question? What if instead of seeing obstacles as roadblocks, we saw them as signposts? What if instead of asking, why is this happening to me, we asked, what is this trying to teach me? Because sometimes the very thing that feels like it's breaking you is actually shaping you. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Jacob. He had a stable job, a comfortable life, and a predictable routine. He never took risks, never ventured outside his comfort zone, because he didn't need to. Life was safe. Then, one day it all came crashing down. The company he worked for shut down, and just like that, he was unemployed. Panic set in. His mind raced with doubt. How will I pay my bills? What will I do next? What if I never recover from this? Days turned into weeks, and frustration turned into fear. Every rejection email felt like another nail in the coffin of his self-worth. But then, something happened. With no job tying him down, Jacob had time to reflect, time to dream, time to ask himself a question he had ignored for years. What do I actually want to do with my life? He had always loved photography, but he had never pursued it seriously. It was always a someday dream, something he'd do when life felt safer. But now, with nothing left to lose, he took a chance. He started small, taking pictures, sharing his work online, doing free shoots just to build a portfolio. Weeks turned into months, and little by little, something incredible happened. People noticed. Opportunities came. His work gained recognition. A year later, Jacob was running his own photography business. And one day, as he stood on a mountaintop capturing the sunrise for a travel magazine, he realized something. The job loss he had once seen as the worst thing that had ever happened to him was actually the best. His greatest obstacle had revealed his greatest opportunity. How often does this happen in life? We resist challenges because they make us uncomfortable. We see failure as the end, not the beginning. We see setbacks as punishment, not preparation. But history has proven time and time again that obstacles are often the birthplace of miracles. Walt Disney was fired from his first job for lacking imagination. Oprah was told she was unfit for television. Steve Jobs was kicked out of the very company he started. Every one of them faced obstacles that could have broken them. But instead, those obstacles shaped them. And the same is true for you. Think about a challenge you're facing right now. Maybe it's a job loss, a failed relationship, a dream that feels just out of reach. It's easy to see the pain, but can you also see the possibility? Because hidden inside that obstacle is something waiting for you, a lesson, a redirection, a new path you wouldn't have seen otherwise. Obstacles are not the end of the road. They are the detours that lead us to where we were meant to go all along. We often believe that transformation happens in a single grand moment. That one speech, one opportunity, one breakthrough will change everything overnight. We admire the success stories, the athletes, the entrepreneurs, the visionaries, thinking they must have done something extraordinary to get where they are. But the truth? Greatness is not built in one giant leap. It is built in the small, consistent acts that seem insignificant in the moment, but compound over time. Think about water dripping on a rock. One drop does nothing. 10 drops? Still no change, but over months, years, decades, those tiny, almost invisible drops shape the rock itself. That is how transformation happens. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Michael. He was stuck in a cycle of routine. Wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to sleep. Every day felt the same. He wanted to be healthier. He wanted to feel stronger. He wanted to be the kind of person who was active, energized, and confident. But every time he thought about change, it felt overwhelming. He looked at people who ran marathons, lifted heavy weights, or did intense workouts, and it felt impossible, so he did nothing. Until one day, he decided to try something different. He didn't commit to an intense fitness program. He didn't change his entire diet overnight. Instead, he made one small decision. He would take a 10-minute walk every day. That was it, just 10 minutes, rain or shine, whether he felt motivated or not. The first few days, it felt pointless. He didn't feel any stronger, any healthier. It was just walking. But he kept doing it. After a few weeks, he started to enjoy it. His walks got longer. His energy improved. He started making better food choices, not because he forced himself to, but because he wanted to. Months later, he joined a gym. A year later, he ran his first race. And when he looked back, he realized that none of it would have happened if he hadn't started with those small, seemingly insignificant 10-minute walks. That is how transformation works. It's not the big decisions, it's the tiny, consistent choices we make every day. A single push-up doesn't make you fit, but doing one every day will change your body over time. Reading for 10 minutes won't make you an expert, but doing it consistently will expand your mind in ways you can't imagine. Saying, "I love you," once won't fix a relationship, but saying it daily, showing up, making small efforts, can build a connection that lasts a lifetime. We underestimate the power of small acts because we don't see immediate results. We want the overnight success, the big win, the dramatic change. But life doesn't work that way. Every great musician started by playing a single note. Every best-selling author started by writing a single sentence. Every strong relationship started with a single conversation. Everything big starts small. So the question is, what small act can you start today? Because when you commit to the small things, something incredible happens. Over time, they don't stay small. They grow, they multiply, they transform, not just your life, but the lives of those around you. Right now, at this very moment, you are far more important than you realize, not because of your job title, your bank account, or your achievements, but because of the impact you have on the people around you. You may not see it. You may not feel it. But somewhere, someone's life is better because you are in it. See, we have this idea that miracles are rare, that they are these divine, unexplainable events that happen once in a lifetime. But what if I told you that you, your presence, your kindness, your words, could be the miracle that someone else is waiting for? Let me tell you a story. There was a man named John. He had been struggling for months. Financial stress, personal battles, the weight of life pressing down on him. He walked through his days feeling invisible, as if the world would keep moving whether he was there or not. One evening, after another exhausting day, John stopped at a coffee shop. He ordered his drink, paid, and was about to leave when the barista, someone he had seen many times but never really noticed, paused, looked him in the eyes and said, "Hey, I just want to say, I really appreciate you. You always come in with a kind attitude, and it makes my day better." It was a simple sentence. It wasn't planned, it wasn't dramatic, but in that moment it changed everything for John. Because what that barista didn't know was that John had been questioning whether his presence even mattered. He had convinced himself that no one would notice if he disappeared. Yet with just a few words, someone did notice. Someone reminded him that he mattered. That small act of kindness, so insignificant to the one who gave it, became the miracle that John needed to keep going. Now, think about this. How many people have you encountered in your life who needed that exact same thing? A friend going through something they haven't told you about, a stranger battling silent struggles, a coworker who seems fine but is barely holding it together. We assume that people know they are valued, that they are loved, that their presence makes a difference, but the truth is most people don't hear it enough. And you have the power to be someone's miracle, not by changing their entire life, not by solving all their problems, but by doing the small things that remind them that they matter. A text message that says, "I was thinking about you today, hope you're doing well." A compliment that lifts someone's spirit when they least expect it. A genuine smile to a stranger who feels invisible. A simple, "I appreciate you." These moments may seem tiny, insignificant, but to the person receiving them, they can be life-changing. Because sometimes the difference between someone giving up and someone holding on is just one reminder that they are not alone. So today, I challenge you to pay attention, to look up, to notice the people around you. Because while you may not see yourself as a miracle, someone else already does. Everything you experience, every success, every failure, every challenge, every opportunity, is shaped not by what happens to you, but by how you interpret it. Your mindset is the single most powerful force in your life. It determines how you see obstacles, how you respond to setbacks, how you pursue your goals, and ultimately who you become. Most people don't realize this. They believe life happens to them. They see themselves as victims of circumstances, powerless to change their situation. But here's the truth. Life is not about what happens to you. It's about how you choose to respond. Let me tell you a story. There were two brothers who grew up in the same household. Their father was abusive. Their childhood was filled with struggle, and they spent most of their early years surrounded by negativity. One brother grew up to be just like his father, angry, bitter, violent. When asked why his life had turned out this way, his answer was simple. With a childhood like mine, how could I have turned out any different? The other brother, despite experiencing the same challenges, grew into a kind, successful, and emotionally strong man. When asked how he had managed to escape the cycle of pain, his answer was just as simple. With a childhood like mine, how could I not work to become different, but to be misunderstood? During one of the most challenging of his life, his answer was just as simple. With a childhood like mine, how could I not work to become different? Same past, same circumstances, but a completely different outcome. The difference? Mindset. Your mind is your greatest asset or your greatest enemy. A fixed mindset tells you I can't. I'm not good enough. I wasn't born for this. A growth mindset tells you I may not be there yet, but I can learn, I can improve, I can become more. A fixed mindset sees failure as the end. A growth mindset sees failure as a lesson. A fixed mindset waits for motivation. A growth mindset creates discipline. The way you see yourself, your abilities, your challenges, it all starts in your mind. And the most successful people in the world, they don't have fewer struggles than you. They don't have fewer failures. In fact, they often have more. The difference is they don't quit. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before creating the light bulb. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before someone finally gave Harry Potter a chance. What if they had stopped trying? What if they had believed the voice that said, "You're not good enough"? But they didn't. Because they understood that success is not about talent, it's not about luck, it's not about perfect conditions, it's about mindset. So let me ask you, what story are you telling yourself? Are you holding yourself back with limiting beliefs? Do you look at your dreams and say, I could never do that? Do you face challenges and think, this is too hard? Or do you look in the mirror and say, I am capable, I am resilient. I may not have all the answers, but I will figure it out. Because the moment you change your mindset, you change your life. It won't happen overnight, but every time you choose to see an obstacle as an opportunity, every time you push past doubt, every time you remind yourself that growth is possible, you are rewiring your brain for success. And when you do that, there is nothing in this world that can stop you. The world is loud. Everywhere you turn, something is demanding your attention. Social media, news headlines, emails, advertisements, notifications, constant noise, pulling you in 1,000 directions. Opinions, expectations, comparisons, all shaping how you think, what you believe, and how you see yourself. But here's the question. When was the last time you truly heard yourself think? Most people go through life reacting to the noise. They wake up and immediately check their phones, filling their minds with the thoughts of others before they've even had a moment to process their own. They spend hours scrolling, absorbing highlight reels of other people's lives, comparing their reality to a carefully curated illusion. They listen to the world telling them who they should be, what success looks like, and why they are not enough. And without even realizing it, they lose their own voice. But here's the truth. You cannot hear your purpose, your intuition, or your own potential if your mind is drowning in noise. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Sarah. She had always been ambitious, always had big dreams, but somewhere along the way, she started to doubt herself. She'd scroll through social media and see people her age traveling the world, buying homes, achieving things she hadn't yet. She felt behind. She started listening to everyone's advice, her friends, her coworkers, strangers online, until she no longer knew what she wanted. One day, feeling overwhelmed, she decided to do something radical. She turned off her phone for an entire weekend. No social media, no news, no outside opinions. At first, it was uncomfortable. The silence felt strange. But then, something happened. She started writing again, something she hadn't done in years. She took a long walk without music, just listening to her own thoughts. She sat with herself, uninterrupted, and asked, what do I actually want? And for the first time in a long time, she heard the answer. Most of us never give ourselves that space. We are so consumed by external noise that we forget the most important voice, the one inside us. And here's the problem. If you don't take control of your mind, the world will do it for you. The world will tell you to be busier, to hustle harder, to chase things that don't fulfill you, to compare yourself to people who aren't even paying attention to you. And if you listen long enough, you will forget that you have a choice. But you do. You have the power to pause, to step back, to disconnect from the chaos and reconnect with yourself. That doesn't mean you need to move to a remote cabin or abandon technology. It means you create space, even just a few minutes a day. Wake up and sit in silence before reaching for your phone. Go for a walk without distraction. Turn off notifications and take back control of your attention. Spend time journaling, reflecting, listening, not to the world, but to yourself. Because when you silence the noise, something incredible happens. You start to hear your own wisdom. You start to trust yourself. You start to realize that the answers you've been searching for were inside you all along. Ideas are everywhere. Motivation is temporary. But action is what separates dreamers from doers. How many times have you had a great idea, something exciting, something that made you feel alive, only to do nothing with it? How many moments of inspiration have passed through your mind only to be drowned out by doubt, fear, or procrastination? The truth is, most people don't fail because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They fail because they never start. They wait for the perfect time. They wait until they feel ready. They wait for everything to fall into place. But waiting is the enemy of progress. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Emily. She had always dreamed of starting her own business. She had a vision, a passion, and even a plan. But every time she thought about launching, doubt crept in. What if I fail? What if no one cares? What if I'm not good enough? So she waited and waited. Months passed, then years. She watched others succeed. She watched people with less experience, less talent, and fewer resources achieve what she had been dreaming about. And one day, it hit her. The only difference between them and her was action. So she did something different. Instead of overthinking, she took the first step. She didn't wait for confidence. She didn't wait for approval. She simply moved, and something incredible happened. The moment she started, momentum followed. One small action led to another. Fear faded. Confidence grew, and what once seemed impossible became reality. This is how progress works. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need all the answers. You just need to move. Because here's the secret. Clarity comes from action, not from thought. Most people believe they need to have everything figured out before they start, but the most successful people in the world didn't start with all the answers. They started with an idea, took action, learned from their mistakes, and adjusted along the way. Think about it. The first iPhone, it wasn't perfect, it had flaws, but Apple launched anyway. And today, it's one of the most successful products in history. The first time a musician writes a song, it's not a masterpiece. But they keep writing, keep improving, and one day they create something unforgettable. The first time an athlete steps onto the field, they are not the best, but they train, they practice, they push forward, and eventually they become champions. The same principle applies to you. You don't need to be fearless. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to take inspired action. That means trusting your instincts, acting on ideas while they are fresh, taking one small step, even when it feels uncomfortable. Because once you do, everything changes. Momentum builds, confidence grows, opportunities appear, and before you know it, the thing you once thought was impossible becomes your reality. When was the last time you stopped, truly stopped, to take in the moment? To feel the weight of existence, the sheer miracle of being alive? Most of us move through life on autopilot. We wake up, go through our routines, check our phones, rush through our days, and collapse into bed, only to do it all over again the next morning. We chase deadlines, obsess over problems, and plan for a future we rarely pause to appreciate. But what if we slowed down? What if we allowed ourselves to live, not just exist, but truly live with a sense of awe? Awe is not just for the extraordinary moments in life. It's not just for mountaintops, sunsets, or once-in-a-lifetime experiences. Awe is available to you right now in the ordinary, in the everyday, in the things you've stopped noticing. Think about it. The sky above you, it has been there for billions of years, shifting colors, stretching endlessly, holding mysteries beyond our understanding. Your heart. It has been beating since the moment you were born, never stopping, never asking for permission, keeping you alive without you even thinking about it. The people in your life, each one with a universe of thoughts, dreams, emotions, crossing paths with you in this moment. Out of the billions of people on this planet, you are here, alive, experiencing this exact moment, this exact breath, in a world so vast and intricate that no human mind can fully comprehend it. But we forget. We let the small stresses of life steal our sense of wonder. We let routine dull the beauty around us. We become numb to the miracles happening every second. And that is a tragedy, because awe is powerful. It shifts your perspective. It reminds you that you are part of something bigger. It pulls you out of your own head and into the vastness of life itself. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named David. He was a businessman, always in a rush, always thinking about the next deal, the next meeting, the next goal. Life was a checklist, a series of tasks to complete. One day, on a flight home, his plane flew over a thunderstorm. He looked out the window and saw lightning flashing inside massive clouds, silent, powerful, magnificent. It was something he had never truly noticed before. In that moment, he felt small. Not insignificant, but small in the best way possible. Small in a way that made his problems feel lighter, his worries less overwhelming. For the first time in years, he felt connected to something greater than himself. That one moment of awe changed him. He started noticing things. The way sunlight danced on water, the laughter of a child, the sound of wind through trees. And in noticing, he felt more alive. Awe is not found in the extraordinary, it is found in paying attention. It's in watching a flower bloom. It's in the stars that have been shining long before you existed and will continue long after you're gone. It's in hearing a piece of music that moves you, feeling a hug that lingers, tasting food that reminds you of home. And when you start to live with awe, everything changes. You become more present, more grateful, more alive. Because awe reminds you that this life, this fleeting, unpredictable, magnificent life, is a gift.